Hey everybody, Mike Andes here. Gonna do a quick live Friday afternoon. Wait on for some of you to hop on here live. If you have any questions, just post them below. I got one question I'll go over that was texted in. They couldn't come in live. This that's while everyone's hopping on. This ice cream is actually paleo. It's actually paleo. I think it's sweetened with monk fruit. It's almond milk. It's really good. If you have any questions, just post them below. Just got on here, so wait on a few people to hop in here. But if you have any questions, go and post them below. And if I can answer anything or help out anything in the business, just go ahead and comment below. Welcome everybody hopping on. Hello. Cool. Go ahead and just post below if you have a question. I'm going to talk real quickly though about going when clients call. How do you wade through them, or how do you screen your clients? How do you make sure that they're not just tire kickers? It actually came from Quinn over in Rhode Island. Had this question. He actually texted it into me. But if you guys have questions while I'm talking about this, go ahead and post below. I'd rather do live questions. This one was texted in just a few minutes ago though from Quinn. And oh wait, I gotta put comments up. There we go. Cool. Yeah, post your comments below and questions. And so Quinn was asking, like, how do you make sure that people aren't just tire kickers? And he said he's been having a whole bunch of landscaping jobs where people come in and they have a big design and it's a big project, and then they just never hear from them, and he feels like he's just wasting the time of his designers as well as his time. And so, what can you do to prevent that? And how do you qualify your customers? And I think a lot of it has to do with a few different things. First of all, where your customers coming from. I think it's really important. Not all leads are created equal. Number one best lead conversion is going to be, in-person word of mouth referral. You're gonna have the highest referral rate and our highest closing ratio for them, versus someone that comes in from a Facebook lead, that comes in from a form on Facebook and doesn't actually go to your website and fill out your estimate request form. They're going to have a much lower closing ratio. And they're many times going to be tire kickers. Sometimes they're going to be people that you do estimates for and then you just never hear from them. Super random. And so first thing when it comes to qualifying customers is, like, not all customers are created equal and not all leads are created equal. And then the second thing is, when you get them on the phone, are you qualifying them? Are you looking for certain red flags of people that are not going to buy, that are getting 5 or 6 estimates, and you just know that they're just looking for the cheapest price? And so, like, when people call the command center, they have a few different things that they're looking for that they would view red flags. And if someone is a red flag customer, we're actually going to just up the amount of requirements. We're going to require card on file. We're going to require prepayment. If they're a project-based job, we're going to tell them up front that we have to require more money up front in terms of on the down payment. And so that will a lot of times pre-qualify people just by adding in more steps and more requirements to getting the jobs actually accepted. Colby said, tire kicking is part of the game. Give them ideas of the price and work from there. Yeah, so like if you guys were at conference a couple years ago, we talked about informing as much as possible about price. On our automations we put out with using Service Autopilot, the second day, the day after they get their estimate, they get an automation 24 hours afterwards that addresses price and talks about why we price the way we do, how it's standardized, and what kind of is the back end expenses, like insurance and equipment expenses and labor and all these other things. And that's that 24 hours afterwards, so that way people really get to understand what the costs look like. Bobby asks, "Hi Mike, hope you are safe." Good to hear from you, Bobby. My question is, how do you explain to your clients that your first mow will cost more than it normally would due to not being able to start until May 1st? All right, so this is a big question because a lot of times right now, people, you can't actually mow. And so people are expecting, like, why would you charge more when on our first mow because of this whole COVID-19 thing? You've got to charge what it's going to take you in terms of budget hours. And so if a recurring customer, a customer has been with you for a long time, if they've got this entire past month for free because no service has been done, and now you're going to come to their property and it's going to be a foot tall and it's going to take you 5 times as long to mow, you need to charge what it's going to take you in terms of budget hours. You absolutely must do that. And so how do you do that? You've got to explain it to your customer base. I would do a video to all of your customers explaining, like, hey, we haven't been able to mow. Your lawn's going to be overgrown. We're going to be charging either at a certain rate or at times what your regular, like twice as much as your regular mow. It's going to be the equivalent of 2 mows because we're going to have to mow it 3 or 4 times and get all the extra growth. And so I would just be open with your customers and communicate with them. Right now for us, usually we require weekly service this time of year. We bend the rules because of all that's going on. We'd rather not lose customers, and we're allowing them to go to bi-weekly service. We're still charging 50% more per cut, but we are allowing bi-weekly service, and it's only like a small percentage of our customers. But usually we require weekly. But in terms of how to explain that, Bobby, back to your question, I'd make a video. I'd be very open and honest. People are wanting to support local businesses. They're wanting to support small businesses, and they will understand if they're reasonable. If they're not reasonable and they're going to, fume over the fact that you haven't mowed it for 3 or 4 times, you've skipped 3 or 4 mows, and now the first mow is going to be twice as much, like, you don't want them as a customer anyways. My ice cream is melting. So, good question, Bobby. Colby asks, people looking for recommendations on Facebook are the worst. Looking for 20 estimates. I agree. Ronald, Mike, I have some of my commercial accounts telling me they can't pay me right now because nobody is in the office. Should I implement late fees? I'd get a card on file. All those companies have credit cards. They have corporate cards. Tell them, hey, let's get a credit card on file. We will not charge it until it's 15 days late, and so that way you can pay. You can pay via check. It just got to be in before 15 days or 30 days even. You've got to have that card on file just to secure the account. That's what I would do for people that are having that issue right now that are saying they're not in the office. Like, people can pay via credit card. People can pay via bank transfer or PayPal. Like, there's so many different ways, so I wouldn't let them use it as an excuse. Keith Jordan, hello from King George, Virginia. Hello. Travis says, what are some of the things you would start to do to make sure that you keep really good employees? In terms of starting, I would honestly... Okay, this is a good one. Here. Let me finish this, guys. Sorry. I know it's super unprofessional for me to eat this in front of you, but I'm doing this intermittent fasting thing, and so 4 o'clock is my deadline, so I have to finish this off. Anyways, in terms of good things, so tomorrow morning with my team, my lawn care crew, I'm actually having a Zoom call because we can't meet, and we're literally going to be talking about personal finances, the stock market, anything they want to do with money. The idea came from a few weeks ago when we were working together, a few of them, and they started asking me questions about like how to build their credit score and where they should, what kind of credit cards they should get and bank accounting stuff. And so I was like, hey, this would be a great opportunity, a good cultural moment. And so I think, honestly, if you care, Travis, just you asking the question that, like, how do I keep good employees? If you care about your employees and you care about keeping good people, having those moments like that is what's going to keep those really good players on the team. So tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock, we're having a Zoom meeting. And they've made a bunch of questions this whole week while they've been working about like personal finances, stocks. Some of them are interested in owning a franchise, 2 or 3 of them. And so they're going to have questions about financials and things like that. And so we're doing a Zoom call. And so I think the biggest thing, people are going to stick around for culture. So when Travis, when you say, what are some of the things you would do to make sure that you keep really good employees? Retention is all about culture and doing those little things that really matter. Like the past few days, I've been super busy. The past 3 weeks, it's been crazy. The only reason I've gone into the office 3 times a week, 2 or 3 times a week, is literally just to say hello. I can't give them a hug or shake their hand or anything, but just to be there and like for them to know that I'm around and that if they need something, I'm there. And that's what's going to keep great employees, in my opinion. Phil, Phil's Lawn Care says, I have a question. What is your position on customers wanting the company to mow 1 week and the customer mow the next? Would you still give a bi-weekly 50% premium price? I would. My schedule is going to be what's going to determine of my price. And so, if someone is wanting me to mow bi-weekly, I'm going to mow bi-weekly. If they want to mow it in between, that's fine. I'm still going to charge the regular price. And that's completely, I'm not going to change on that. James Sickles, hey, can I use my car? Don't know what that means. What, James? Okay, cool. Yeah, so in terms of, if you guys have questions, there's 40 of you guys on here, just post them below. I'm going to keep going through these, as many as I can here. But yeah, in terms of, like, if a customer right now, with this whole COVID thing, if they're changing to bi-weekly, make sure you're charging a premium. At least 50%. Like, at least 50%. And if people give you kickback on that, like, it's, the way you explain that and the way you should rationalize it in your head is when you go to the store and there's 3 Pepsis and they say buy 2, get 1 free, it's not like that third Pepsi was free for Coca-Cola. They just are rewarding you for buying more. And so when a customer is doing more services with you, you should be giving them discounts. And that discount comes in the form of weekly services should be costing less than bi-weekly. And I don't mean by $5, okay? Some of you guys that like charge, you'll charge $30 for a weekly service, and then you'll charge $35 for bi-weekly. Like, don't do that. If you're going to charge a premium, charge 50% more to give a really good incentive for people to go to weekly service. Colby asked, I would love to hear more about, sorry about my blocked up nose, guys. It's all messed up. I would love to hear more about how you implement your no crew leader business practices. I feel like if we have, more all these questions come in. 1 second, guys. Let me just read this question from Colby. I would love to hear more about how you implement your no crew leader business practices. I feel like if we have a crew leader, someone is responsible, and if it's a crew that doesn't have a leader with them, one guy ends up slacking with the "you're not my boss" attitude. Okay, so first things first. If you have a crew leader simply due to the fact that you want someone to be accountable, as soon as you do that or even think that, you can't hold all of them to that same level of accountability. And so if you're going to have a crew leader and therefore use that person as the scapegoat for everyone underneath them, you're basically telling everyone that, like, hey, like, you can do whatever you want as long as your crew leader is there, though. We're going to blame them. We're going to hold them responsible. I want to hold all of my guys responsible for everything that they do. And so the only time we'd ever bend that rule is if someone's getting trained for the first few days, maybe a week, when they're with a trainer, and if they do something like they break something or they do a skid mark, then we're going to hold that trainer responsible. But in terms of responsibility, you want it to be where every single person in the organization knows that what they do is going to be directly impacting the business, and it's going to directly impact their paycheck. And that comes back to P for P, right? And so, and if people have the "you're not my boss" mentality, like, that's messed up. Like, I would fire people over that because, like, in our business, for example, the guy on Saturdays that comes and washes our trucks, he has full license and responsibility and full coverage and to like call people out about them doing stuff in their truck. I don't care if they've been there a long time, how much experience they have. Like, he is new, but he has all of the power and authority to be able to call other people out on what they're not doing. So, like, the "you're not my boss" attitude is someone that is not wanting to grow, not wanting to improve. And if someone is actively taking their time to show where you can improve and you're not accepting of that, that's not someone I want around. And so, like, at our spring offsite team meeting that we do, I told everyone that this year, like, my big thing was no complaining. Like I said, you can do whatever you want, but if you complain, you're out. Like, no strikes, like, you're just gone. And if someone was ever to say "you're not my boss," or like even have that attitude, like, we fired someone last year who was our most experienced person because they told a brand new employee that they didn't need help, in a rude way. They said they didn't need help on a job, and that person was just trying to be helpful. And so that kind of attitude, I just can't deal with it. And honestly, again, this leads back to what I said on the last podcast. Like, until you fire someone because of it, you won't create a standard. So if you want to have a standard and you want to have a team mentality where you can keep every one of your crew accountable, well, then you've got to be able to fire somebody because they have a mentality of, oh, well, you're not my boss or you're not my team leader. Like, that will never work. And so firing one person can change that in an instant. Tyler asks, what advice would you give to somebody in their first year as a business owner? I would tell you to be a sponge, be humble enough to learn from everybody, regardless of how long they've been in the business. I'm willing to listen to someone who's just started their business yesterday and is coming up with great marketing ideas or a fresh perspective. And being a sponge is the best way to get creative with how you can improve your business. And so if you're just starting out, I would listen to books. If you're out in the field, I would listen to audiobooks. I would learn as much as I possibly can. Simon Godfrey, how do we digitally market to the 65 plus comfortably retired market? In terms of digitally marketing, you're going to be looking at Facebook and Nextdoor for that market. You're going to have different creative and different text for both of those platforms, Nextdoor versus Facebook. But in terms of platforms, digitally, they're on Facebook. They're not on Instagram quite yet. Probably in a few years they will be. But right now it's Facebook and it's going to be Nextdoor, which right now Nextdoor, we're seeing some really good stuff. Andy Burleson, job applicants, what are some key things you're looking for besides expertise? It's hard to tell if a person is good or not. Maybe I'm too critical, picky, etc. I'm really basing it based upon the references. I think I've talked about this before. Like, it's all about what the references say. Obviously, the resume, I'll look at it. I don't really care. The in-person with me is really, really important. I don't do those in-persons anymore for our local shop. But if when I was and if I was doing them, that is a big part of it's like, are they going to get along? Like, for example, last week, we had a guy come in, super awesome. But he had been in unions his whole life. And you could just tell there was that angst against employers and kind of like, what can I get out of the deal? And I just knew that, I don't know, he wouldn't be like a good fit in terms of just humility and learning from everyone else. And he's used to that very hierarchical system of a union. I have nothing against unions. I think unions are great. But like, in terms of having that hierarchy, having a union between you and the employer where you can't communicate, and if there's problems, you feel like you got to go tattletale, like that sort of mentality that kind of just turned me off. But in terms of having a the references are by far and away the biggest way for us to determine it. If people have worked somewhere and they are raving about that employee, there's a really good chance they're going to be good when they come and work for you. Ronald asks, my commercial accounts tell me they won't use credit cards to pay bills. I would tell them, hey, then after 30 days, there's gonna be a charge. And so if people aren't paying you within 30 days, you don't want them, because if you're billing monthly, especially to commercial accounts, and you're working on the 1st of April, and you bill them at the 30th of April, and you don't see that money until the end of May, you're literally floating that money for 60 days, and that will kill your business. Cash flow is so important. And if you look at cash flow and you say, okay, well, people are taking 60 days to pay, and your revenues are, let's say, $50,000 per month. That means you need to have $100,000 sitting in the bank just to float your cash flow. Because if people are taking 60 days to pay and you are outputting $50,000 in revenue, you need 2 months, 60 days worth of, $100,000 you need to have in the bank. Whereas if you could have faster cash flow, either billing more frequently, having a credit card on file, or people that actually just paid on time, and you could go from $100,000 to $50,000. That other $50,000 is a massive amount of money you can unleash towards marketing, hiring, getting more equipment. Like, the amount of growth you can have when you have your cash flow dialed in is so much more. Phil's Lawn Care, Tyler, throw money at ads and marketing. Bobby, what are you putting in your web ads during this time? We have found that our calls and web leads have dropped off since the shelter-in-place order. Yeah, so we've had a big drop-off. We've had to completely focus on maintenance and mowing because landscaping and hardscaping is not going to be allowed. It's not considered essential services where we're at. So in terms of our ads, we are focusing on the fact that we do not require in-person estimates. We can do drive-bys, and that within 24 hours they'll have an estimate in their inbox, but they do not have to have any contact with us whatsoever. So advertising contactless and no in-person meeting necessary for estimates, that's what I would be using right now. Phil's, Tyler, listen to all of Mike's podcasts. I listen to them on Spotify. Free Joe Exotic. Cool, definitely look at. Phil's, Mike, what's your opinion on late fees? My net term is 15 days. Should I implement a late fee after 15 days or 30 days? So we used to have a late fee. Honestly, there is nothing, no late fee will ever be able to convince a client to pay you faster than frequent follow-up and then just really good communication with the customer. And so we used to have late fees. It was like $10 if they were over 30 days. Now we just have automations that are basically annoying them until they pay. And the automation is, first of all, it's like, hey, you're late. Just let us know. Just make sure you get this paid. Next one's like, hey, you're overdue. Get a credit card on file by clicking this link. It's an encrypted form. You can fill this out and auto pay. And like they have like 4 or 5 emails in the course of those 30 days. So like they're gonna pay. And then if they don't, we jump on it right away. We have no leniency on it, and we just really attack it, and we just are really honest on our invoices to explain to them that, like, hey, in order to keep our rates the same every year, in order to keep ourselves competitive, in order to pay our team, we'd really appreciate if you paid us within 7 days. And by asking for the 7 days, it means that they need a check right away, and it means, or have a credit card on file. And so if that's a problem for them, again, like if they're not going to pay you for 60 days, you don't want them as a customer. They are a liability to you, especially if these are mowing and maintenance where you're doing, 15, 20% net margin. Like you can't afford to float someone's money for 2 months. And so we are not banks. And so either charge a late fee to make sure and like charging $10 will get people's attention. That being said, we don't charge late fees anymore. That being said, we didn't have a single dollar go to collections last year because we have the automations, as well as like we are going to call them. We're going to explain to them why we need to get paid on time. We're going to, in the invoice, be very nice about the fact that like we need the money to pay our team. And if someone falls behind or is late on a payment, like we're just going to cut them off and make it very, very clear that like that is not tolerated. So, any more questions, guys, go ahead and post below. But yeah, as a lot of you are right now in shelter in place, I know you guys know my perspective in terms of like staying on, continuing to improve your business at the time and using this as a time to really accelerate and take advantage of cheaper marketing opportunities, taking advantage of the fact that the labor market is going to free up. So back to like Andy's point, you're going to have right now, you're going to have managers being laid off. You're going to have people that did landscaping 20 years ago or 10 years ago and we're doing something else. They're all become laid off. They're all getting on unemployment. And if you can offer those people a job right now, or you can offer them a start date even if it's next month, like you can take opportunity of this. You really can. And if you're in shelter in place and you can't be working right now, so we got a franchisee up in Ontario, Canada, and he cannot work. He physically cannot work. This is what I would be doing if we could not do mowing right now. And we were starting our mowing season had started, but we weren't allowed to work. This is what I would do. I would basically be advertising like crazy and using the scarcity of a waiting list. So it's called the waiting list close. I don't even know if it's a thing. I call it the waiting list close. And that is basically saying that we got a waiting list, and for everyone that you can sign up for mowing now, we'll give you an estimate, no contact needed. Drive-by estimates are fine. We'll give you an estimate, and then we can put you on the schedule. Start when all this blows over, we'll get you on the schedule. We'll get started on your services, and then use scarcity and the waiting list as a way to make sure they sign up. So basically say, hey, look, we got 20 spots available. We're going to get you on the schedule as soon as all of this health crisis stuff is over, but you can go ahead and click this button, fill out a form, we'll give you an estimate, get you on the schedule. Like, you should still be selling jobs. If you can't be out working, you can still be submitting estimates because you can drive around, you can go from a satellite, you can look at people's properties, you can still submit estimates, and so you should be selling the jobs, putting them on the schedule, and you should be able to, like, when this is all done, have a full pipeline. Like, if we were closed down, we would literally be having our crew on the phone, cold calling everyone inside of our database, getting work, getting them on the schedule for, the hundreds of people that might have mowed one time or we did a cleanup for them. We'd be trying to get them on recurring services. We'd be just trying to fill the pipeline so much so that when we are out of this, we are so incredibly filled with work. And so you got to attack right now. Everyone's like, oh, like, I can't work because of this stay-at-home thing, and I gotta stay at home. Like this is gonna be a wash of a year, bad spring. I'm not gonna be able to grow. Like that is such a bad mentality. You should be taking this time to sell. Like it's over the phone. Yes, you're not gonna be able to see people. You're not gonna shake their hand. You can still submit estimates, and recurring services are still very hot right now. All right, so I could talk a long time about that. Ronald Kirk, will there be a Landscape Summit 2021? Absolutely. The website's already up. You can already get signed up. Phil's Lawn Care. Mike, do you accept cash or check during this time? I now require all invoices to be paid online, period. Do we accept cash or checks? We accept any form of payment. No one pays with cash. They can send a check if they want, but if they're late by, even 15 days, we're going to require them to put a credit card on file. And that's all done by automation. If they start getting overdue or they start getting behind. So our invoices are due upon receipt. So as soon as they get them, they're considered overdue if they're 1 day. So like literally the next day when they get an automation saying, hey, you need to put a credit card on file, it's like you're overdue on this invoice because you're 1 day overdue. And that's how we treat it. Because when people see overdue all over their invoice, they start to think about it more instead of saying like, oh, you got 15 days until it's overdue. So like from due upon receipt, our invoices are overdue, and that gets people to put their card on file if they are, past a day or two. Cristo Gomez, I'm selling and closing. Yep. Like right now, recurring services are hot. You can still sell. You can absolutely still be doing that even if you're from your house. Like literally, you should be pounding your database right now. We have emailed, usually this time of year we send 1, maybe 2 one-click estimate emails to our database. We have about 7,000 people in our database. When we send out a one-click estimate, we are packed with estimates. I cannot overemphasize that at this time is the time to reach out to the customers you've done business with and upsell them. Get them on recurring services. If you've done landscaping jobs, call those people, email them. This is absolutely imperative this time when everything is drying up and contracting. Grass is still growing, trees still need trimming, but you got to make those connections with the customers you've had a relationship with, and we have had tremendous success. We have had more mowing jobs accepted this spring than ever before, and that's simply due to the fact that we've tripled down on the amount of contact we have with our database. So instead of sending 1 newsletter a month, we're sending 3 right now because we're going to try to get them for cleanups. We're going to try to get them for mowing. We're going to try to get them for treatments. And we're trying to get those services set up for after all this blows over. A couple more questions here coming through. Thank you guys for posting those. Kyle asks, is P4P more in-depth in Landscape Business Course? Yeah, in Landscape Business Course, there is the recording of the Landscape Summit, and that whole theme was P4P. A lot of it's explained. I'm going to say it here, but there's a really good chance I'm going to be allowing P4P version 1 of the software that I use at the conference. There's a good chance I'm going to allow that to go public and be free for everybody because we got version 2 coming out for the franchisees, which is like super amazing. It has a mobile connection with the device and text the employees what they made every day, stuff like that. So yes, P4P is more in depth on Landscape Business Course because there's the recording of the Landscape Summit. Cristo Gomez, have you taken other courses? Have I? Yes, I have. As well as books and podcasts, and just trying to absorb as much as I can, especially when I was working out in the field. That's what I did for years, just to learn. And in terms of myself, like even 2 weeks ago, I did a YouTube course. Like literally how to make thumbnails better, how to do digital media better in terms of creative, like color wheel stuff and catching people's eye and the psychology behind colors and things like that. Like just trying to, like, this is important. You got to realize that, like, it doesn't matter how good you get at anything, you got to continually learn. And there's always more stuff to learn. Like, I just feel like the more I learn, the less I know, and therefore the more I need to learn. And so there'll never be an end to that, and I'd encourage you to do the same. Colby asked, what are you using for all this automation? So Colby, at Augusta, we have now 14 automations that we build out for our franchisees. We use Service Autopilot, and we create those automations in-house. Kyle asks, no, I've done this in the past, but this wasn't the right crews. I have the guys now who are maxed out for pay for maintenance in my area. I don't know what you're referring to. Oh, okay, got it. K&M's Lawn Services. Are your customers back paying or ahead? We do back paying for residential. Makes the most sense in the mind of the customer when you're not doing 12-month contracts, and it's difficult when there is 3 services. So for example, if you do weekly services, you have 5 services. A lot of them will balk if you charge 5 up front when they're like, well, why is it different? And so we always charge back, because then we can have the dates of the service, and then that way too we can have some leeway on our scheduling. If I'm going to charge someone for 4 services this coming month, but then something catastrophic happens, or there's a ton of rain or whatever, we need to move something around, and then there's only 3, then there's issues. I would love to be paying prepayment, but as you scale, it's about creating and taking away any friction in the sale process, and I'd much rather be selling people faster and taking the friction out of the sales process. And a big part of friction is how payment is collected. And if I'm requiring prepayment, or I'm requiring contracts, or I'm requiring a signature, or any of those things, it's going to create friction in that sales process. So if you're looking for scale, not necessarily the best, most profitable, not the most efficient, but if you're looking for scale in selling jobs, you want to reduce those things that are going to create friction in the sales process. Jonathan asks, Michigan governor has also labeled non-essential. Is it the same for you guys? If so, how are you dealing with this? Our accounts have to be mowed. So Jonathan, basically what I'm seeing right now for those states that have been labeled inessential for lawn care and landscaping, I'm seeing the governors after about 2 to 3 weeks start to retract their statements, because they just realize like lawns are overgrown and they have to be cut, and it's a it's a public health issue if you got 80-year-olds out trying to mow their grass with a big 200 horsepower machine or whatever it is, 15 horsepower, or a weed whacker or whatever, that stuff that they're not used to, stuff that's heavy, stuff that can really hurt them, or they're going up on top of a ladder to try to clean out their gutters. So I'm seeing right now for the states that have been considered non-essential for lawn care, landscaping, I'm seeing that being reversed usually, or given more clarity after 2 or 3 weeks. And in terms of how I would deal with this, if I was shut down or considered non-essential, I would go on the absolute offense in terms of sales. I would be hitting the phone. I'd go through every single person on my database. I'd be emailing them. I'd be calling them, and I'd be running ads to get my schedule filled for the time when everything does open up, and basically pre-selling everybody, basically giving them prices, telling them that, hey, we're going to get started as soon as we're allowed to, and just like really filling up your pipeline. Phil asked, we are considered essential in Washington, still working mowing lawns, keeping the lawns fresh and edges crisp. Is most of your marketing in Google or Facebook? This is from Kyle. I feel that people like looking at Facebook, but go to Google to buy services. So I've talked a lot about this on the podcast. Google is, they have intent to buy. It's intent-based marketing. They are looking for lawn care. They are looking for landscaping. So I'm willing to pay more per click to have those people coming to my website, versus Facebook. They're not coming to Facebook to look for lawn care and landscaping services. They're coming to Facebook to watch a cute baby or a funny cat picture or whatever it might be, and then we're interrupting them and hoping that by casting a big net that we catch some fish. And so in terms of our marketing mix, we do Google, we do Facebook, we do Nextdoor, we do print ads, we do all of it, and we figure out what works and we go double down on it. So right now we've noticed in this whole downturn thing across the board with our franchisees, print marketing is doing much worse, and we're finding that Nextdoor and Facebook are doing better, but Google in some markets is doing really good, because everyone's taking out their marketing dollars right now. Usually the first thing people cut during an economic contraction is their marketing, and so if all your competitors take out their money off of their Google ads campaigns, then your keywords all of a sudden become much cheaper for those clicks. And so I would definitely be looking at all venues and seeing what's working right now for you. And again, I wanted to make this comment because someone said something the other day, like, I spent $120 on Facebook ads and I only got 2 calls. Listen, if you listen to the last video that I made on YouTube and Facebook about the cost, like growing a business, and a couple people were like, that's impossible and all this sort of thing. I'm like, if you looked, I was doing $200 per customer. Like, customer acquisition cost was $200, which means per customer that I would have set up in that scenario that seems so impossible, I was paying $200, which means if you paid $8, let's say $5 per click on Google, that means that you would have to get 40 clicks to get 1 customer. And so people sometimes just like get wrapped up in this notion of like, oh, well, like I'm not gonna pay $50 and not get a customer. But like, yet they'll look at that example I made the other day, and they're like, "Yeah, I would of course pay $20,000 and know that I'm gonna make $400,000 that year." Like they don't run the numbers, and so people that do $120 on Facebook or $120 on Google, and they're like, "Oh, like just judge it," they're wrong. You have to have a larger sample set, and you have to have comparative data, and you need to be running those at the same time, because if you run a Google ad one week and then you run a Facebook ad the next week, you have completely different ad sets. You have like if it's sunny the second week, the amount of the customers are going to respond much more because the grass is growing and like they're actually thinking about lawn care. So you got to be running these things at the same time. When we've been doing that recently, we've seen a massive decline in our ROI on print marketing. I don't know why exactly that is. I'm assuming it's because there is so much news right now that people are glued to their TVs and they are not worried about what's in their mailbox. But I'm just presuming right now based upon that information. But we've seen a massive decline in EDDM response. A couple more here. We got, all right, Colby asked, what's your discount for prepayment for the whole season? Nothing. If someone really wanted to and they were going to give us a check with no credit card processing fees and pay for the whole year, we might give them 5%. But I literally think we have one customer that does that because they've done it for so long, we still let them do it. But the reason we don't is because we use P for P, and that is basically if I give a discount, it's going to be discounting the guys or we're taking a cut, right? So we don't allow for prepayment of a whole year. We discourage it big time, and if someone really wants to pay with a check for their whole year, we would maybe give them 5% discount just because credit card processing fees and the admin time of sending them invoices, which is not much, and so we don't do much discounting. Phil, adding a physical location onto Google My Business has definitely increased my visibility. I am the only lawn care service in my city. Cool. I don't know if you mean, okay, I see. Google My Business. Yep. Google Local Services is same thing. Sometimes adding a physical location does help, but most importantly, adding a service area and then making sure that your service area aligns with your keywords in your website. So yes, you're right, Phil, like having a physical location in Google does help you in terms of rankings. But if you're doing a service area, it's important that your keywords, like your zip codes and your city names, are in alignment with that service area. Otherwise, Google will penalize you. Mike, are you a sponsor on Nextdoor or just posting in Nextdoor local ads? We are doing Nextdoor local ads. And for most of you, if you go to Nextdoor, you can click local deals. And I think you meant, local deals is what you meant. If you go click local deals, you can see how many businesses in your area are posting local deals. And some markets are saturated, and it's not worth it. You're going to have 20 other companies. There's going to be a bunch of local businesses in their ad feed. But if you go into your Nextdoor and you click local deals and there's like no one advertising, like literally, I went to my local deals and there was 2 companies advertising, Augusta Lawn Care and Anytime Fitness. Guess what? That means that their only local businesses they're seeing are mine. They're not. They see Angie's List and they see Home Advisor and they see real estate, all those other big sponsors. But in terms of local deals, they're only seeing mine. And so I wish I could show you screenshots right now, but like Kevin from Augusta Lawn Care, one of the franchisees, myself, Andy, I know they've been doing Nextdoor ads, and they've been sending me screenshots of what those deals have been doing in terms of awareness, like how many times people are seeing them, as well as how many people are clicking on them. And right now, the cost per click is usually like $2 to $4, depending on how good their creative is, and that's what we've been seeing across the board. And we've got people at Command Center when Command Center asks like, where did you hear about us? There are people there saying Nextdoor, and so that is a really good sign because it means that they're actually remembering where they came from, which is a big thing in marketing. K&M Lawn Care Services. Have you dealt with Home Advisor for leads? Is it worth? I do not like them. I want to keep my relationship with the customer directly with me, and that's just my 2 cents. I just find that their prices go up over time. I hate how they pit you against competitors to basically drive the price up. But I've also heard people do really well with Home Advisor once you get their contact, and once you get the contact of the customer, they're in your database, and then you can start sending them newsletters. You can start sending them, cold calling them during this time. Like, yes, having your database, having those contacts is super valuable. And if they're coming from Home Advisor, like if you're not paying a lot of money, cool. I just don't want to be, same thing with Thumbtack. Like, I don't ever want to be pitted against someone else. I don't like the leads coming in through someone else either. Like, the reason I like Google is because they're going to be clicking, yes, they're going through Google, but they're coming to my website, and I control that relationship from day one. It's not like they're going to Home Advisor, submitting their information, and never seeing my website. That person's usually going to be someone that's more price sensitive, and they're not going to be as full service. They're not going to click as many, one-click estimates for our emails, because they're not the type of person that is going. They're going to go submit estimates for other companies, and so if they're going through Thumbtack or Home Advisor and submitting information and then asking Thumbtack and Home Advisor to then get estimates, there's a really good chance that person's not going to be long term. And so, again, not all leads are created equal. Not all customers are created equal. Not all marketing channels that bring in those leads are created equal. And based upon what I've seen for the price as well as the quality of the customer, Thumbtack, Home Advisor, those things, I'd much rather be more vigilant and control the asset. So this is something we talked about a couple years at Landscape Summit, and that is renting real estate versus owning real estate. When you own the real estate, it's like your website. It is content that you've created, videos, pictures. When we talk about renting real estate, that's Google Ads. It's Home Advisor, getting that one, for $20 you get a lead. Like, you're renting. That's what you're doing. You're renting the contact information. You're renting the data from that Home Advisor lead or from Thumbtack or whatever it is. You're just renting data. And so I'd rather control the asset, which is the picture, the video, the website, and really have that be the driver. And if anything, have the driving the customer and the traffic to my website, where they're going to see all of our staff, and they're going to see other projects we've done, and they're going to see the quality and the professionalism, and that we're insured and bonded, and like the whole thing. That type of person that then submits an estimate request form is going to be a much higher quality lead. And so, again, not all leads are created equal, not all customers are created equal, and not all marketing channels that bring in leads are created equal. I'd be keeping that in mind. All right, one more question, and I'm going to hop off here and hope that everyone has an amazing Easter weekend. Enjoy some time with your family. But again, if you can't be working right now. If you're not considered essential services, this is not the time to be like, oh, guess this spring ain't going to be that great. This is the time to go through your database, call property managers. For the franchisees, we did this thing called 30 customers in 30 days, and it's basically using very, very low amounts of marketing dollars to basically stay hyper vigilant about the amount of actions that you're going to produce the 30 days after your state comes out of lockdown. And so it's basically it's an automation that every day is going to email them and tell them exactly what to do. Like, for example, day one is, I think, on the north side of your territory, hand out 100 door hangers. Day two is like, go to those 100 doors, knock on all of them, and introduce yourself and leave them with a flyer. Don't need to be salesy, gives them all the points, tells them what to do and not to do. Day three is like, get the contact addresses and emails for 5 local property management companies. The day four is like, go to those 5 property management companies and give them a platter of cookies. Day 4 is like, how to follow up with them, and then email and get to the decision makers. And that's the level of accountability you need to have to yourself, and really track the actions that you're taking. You don't need to spend a bunch of money. You don't need to be going and spending a bunch of money on Facebook and Google Ads. It's about action. It's about picking up the phone. It's about sending out newsletters. It's about improving the processes of your business. It's about keeping the customers in your database warm. I am so floored and amazed that I have said this for so many years and said this so many times, that the number one marketing method, the number one channel, the best customer acquisition cost you'll ever get is keeping your customers warm in your database. Like I just said, we have 7,000 customers in our database. If we ever get slow, we literally know that we can send an estimate out and fill our schedule for the next week or two. Like, that is so valuable. And the amount of people who are not staying in touch, that are not sending newsletters out, that are not sending out promotions, that are not at this time when everyone's on their phone actually looking at their emails, that you aren't taking advantage of that and absolutely promoting yourself, sending out valuable content, upselling people. Like, why aren't you upselling people if they've done landscaping with you? Why aren't you upselling them on recurring services? If they've done recurring services for you, why are you not trying to upsell them on treatment packages or on a cleanup once this all blows over? Like, this is the time for action. I would get a whiteboard. If you don't have something like an automation that's going to tell you exactly what to do, like I just mentioned with the franchisees, get yourself a whiteboard, have a calendar on there. Day 1, this is what I'm doing. Day 2, this is what I'm doing. And then, did you do it? Can you cross it off? How many door hangers did you put out on this day? How many calls did you make? How many emails how many people did you cold call? How many property management company? Like, this is about action. All right. And yes, during this time, maybe you can't do door hangers. Maybe you can't go knock on doors. But like, there's so many things that you can do with your existing client database that you have their contact. Yes, you need to have a plan for when this all opens up and there's gonna be an influx of customers and you're able to go out and knock on doors and you're able to put out door hangers. You've got to have a plan in place. That's like follow what I'm talking about here. Like, I cannot overemphasize the fact that your existing database is where all of the value of your business is. We bought a company last fall and I did not buy any of the assets. I literally bought the contact list. That's all the value of the whole business, was literally the contact list. And that's what we're capitalizing on right now, because we have thousands of customers they've never contacted for like a year, 2 years, 5 years. And now we're just doubling down on emailing them, staying in touch with them, sending them information, promotions. Like, this is where it's at. If you are locked down, you need to be working your database and you need to be making a plan for the 30 days when your state opens up. Actions. How many doors? Numbers. How many people are you following up with? How many estimates are you going to close? How many estimates are you going to put out? These are things you've got to keep track of. And I just don't think there's any excuse to be playing it slow right now, or using a victim's mentality of like, oh, like we're locked down and we're not gonna be able to have a good year now. There will be absolutely no excuses why 2020 cannot be a good year for you in this landscaping industry. We have it so good in this industry. You can still do so much, and if you can't, there's so much opportunity to continue to grow. If you're closed down for 4-6 weeks, you can absolutely be selling jobs right now and putting them on the schedule down the road, or just telling them, hey, I'm gonna put you on a waiting list, and I got 20 people I'm gonna put on the waiting list. And you just fill that 20 people up. I'd be encouraged to do that. There's gonna be no excuses, and we're gonna grow. And I think there's a lot of opportunity out there. If you're in the landscape industry, we have it very, very good right now. You know, my gym right now is closed down. We've been closed down for 4 weeks now. We probably have another 3 to 4 weeks at least of being closed down. Zero revenue. It's illegal for us to be charging people. There's a lot of consumer protection stuff out there, so we can't be charging them. All training. We have an $8,000 a month rent that is at that gym. We have a $6,000 mortgage, which we get cut. We're able to get that deferred, but still an $8,000 rent. You got utilities that are a few $1,000s a month. So like, we have it very, very good. Think about if we were in the restaurant industry. Like, there is no like calling people right now and trying, like, if you were in the restaurant industry right now, this is when like keeping customer data is like, again, invaluable. You'd be calling all of them. You'd be trying to get them on takeout. You'd be email blasting them, giving them coupons to come do takeout or delivery. And so you've got to control the data of your customers. That's why I'm not a huge fan of those Thumbtack and those Home Advisor things. I'd rather have that direct contact with the customer myself. And if you have that, if you have them people in your database, I don't care if it's 100 people, 200 people, you've got to stay in touch with them. Brian asked, you've talked a lot about existing databases. What to recommend for a new company in this pandemic to accumulate new customers? This is going to be really interesting and really depending based upon your market. If your market is locked down, it's going to be a little bit different. If you're loose right now, in terms of like you're in an area where you're still allowed to mow or do lawns, I'd be going out right now and I'd be doing free lawn care for the doctors and the nurses in your local community. You know, like, you have time right now. Go do that, and the amount of PR that you're going to get in your local area is enormous. We did a campaign for the franchisees on Facebook and on Instagram, a video as well as just regular digital that they can use if they're running out of work and they're able to continue to work in their area to get the free press, do something good for these people who are pouring themselves out, putting themselves on the front lines, do good, and then get good back in return from the social credibility that you're going to get. And guess what? Doctors and nurses are your ideal customers. They need someone to continue doing those services after this is all over. And guess what? You're going to know exactly what their estimate should be because you've done the services on their property. So those are just a couple ideas. I'd be doing that. I would be doing stuff. If you have money, I'd be doing the Google and the Facebook stuff, really pushing that you don't need contactless estimates. No in-person estimates are needed or required. Last question here. Richard Powell, what is the correct way to charge for landscape service? I would imagine you're talking about landscaping, like project-based. Regardless if it's landscaping or lawn care and maintenance, 100% need to be charging based upon supplies and budgeted hours. Especially if you're going to try to implement P for P and some sort of pay for performance model, you absolutely must be charging based on budgeted hours and supplies. And you need to have a markup on those supplies, whether it be dump fees, materials, bulk materials, plants, whatever it is. Those are the two things you must be adding in. So hopefully that helps everyone a little bit today. Appreciate you guys for coming on here. Really do appreciate all of you. Hope you guys are doing well. If there's anything I can do, make sure to let me know. I'm pretty busy right now with the franchisees and really just making sure they're all set. And we're just wrapping up version 2 of P for P, the software. And so pretty busy, but definitely if there's something I can help you guys with, landscapebusinesscourse@gmail.com. I can help you out as much as I possibly can. Have a great weekend and have a very happy Easter.